Professor Narun, I think he should be online for the questions. 2 minutes? Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Any comment so far? No? Well, regarding the risk factors, it's very clear the increasing association between hepatitis B and intrahepatic cholangiocarcinoma in China. Do you have any data on liver flux on these cases and also on PSC compared to the West?
I think just like Thailand, and it was very kind of pandemic, prevalent in early 1950s because of the lifestyle. But after that, because the government paid so much attention on the kind of the approach by adopting the prevention approach, so encourage people not to eat raw fish, and the disease, or because parasites, the infection pretty much eradicated, but it came back. I think it was since early 2000s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they adopted the Japanese cuisine to eat sushi, yes, to eat raw fish, and the cases just suddenly come back again, but improved again after the implement of the stopping eating the raw fish.
So just linked to that, there's a question online. If it's considered to be preventable in Thailand because it's caused by a fluke, do we test for that parasite in Europe?
They do test in where Opisthocus fellinius is in Eastern Europe and Russia. I don't know what the figures would be, but they do test, and that's why they're getting the data that's suggesting more and more each time that Fellinius is a carcinogen, group 1 carcinogen. Yeah.
Thank you. And just quickly linked, there's another question online. I don't know if Shahid wants to take this. Talking of risk factors and screening, can the increased number of hepatitis cases in kids be a prediction of higher future cases of cholangiocarcinoma? Sorry to...
Is the question referring to this outbreak reported in children in the UK? I think, that's been on the news a lot, hasn't it? That a bunch of children, every year, I'm not a pediatric hepatologist, but every year children can get, any acute viral infection can cause liver damage. And every year some children get very, very sick and end up needing a liver transplant. It's thankfully very, very rare. This year, 2 to 3 times more kids have had it around the country. It's a bit of a mystery. No one knows exactly what has caused it. The current thinking is it's probably some sort of adenovirus. But I don't think it has, it doesn't appear to be COVID related or COVID vaccine related, because none of them had COVID vaccine. I think a third of those kids may have had COVID recently, but we don't think that it's COVID related. Well, I don't think that has any implications for future risk factors. So hepatitis just means any sort of infection or inflammation of the liver, many, many causes of hepatitis. The liver is very good at recovering from any acute insult, and the main risk factor for liver cancer is chronic liver disease with fibrosis and cirrhosis that accumulates over many years. The one exception to that is probably hepatitis B, because hepatitis B is a DNA virus. It's directly oncogenic and integrates into the host genome, so it's directly oncogenic. So patients with hepatitis B, we not infrequently see that they get liver cancer without established cirrhosis. And perhaps quite worryingly, people with fatty liver is relatively common. Fortunately, very few people get cirrhosis, but there is a suggestion that people with fatty liver may be getting HCC with some fibrosis, but not necessarily established cirrhosis. But a child or a young person getting an acute viral hepatitis that they recover from, there's no long-term harm or damage or risk of cancer.
Thank you.
Thank you. We want to welcome Professor Narun for joining the discussion, and thank you very much for your presentation. Vincenzo.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed for your very nice presentation to all the speakers. It was very interesting about the molecular alteration of this related cholangiocarcinoma because they are a lot of epigenetic alterations that are related to the liver fluke itself. This is very similar to what happened to the ADH2 mutated cancer. So actually there are, Professor Bridgewater is very expert of this approach that suggests to use transcriptomic instead of molecular alteration to target the therapy in a cancer. Do you think there is a rationale to try to address OV-related cholangio with ADH1 target therapy, for example? Is according to you, molecularly, there is a molecular rationale to target the OV cholangio with ADH1 or 2 target therapy?
Vincento, I think this is very important question. You can see they missed this part of data in this study. I think mainly because of the cost. So expensive. Only look at 262 patients cost nearly £500,000. Only that's really horrendous. If you're going to include the rest of the methods for the study, it would be sky high. But I would like to let you know my students, Gemma Owen will give a talk about the epigenetic probe screening based on the cholangiocarcinoma cell lines using a library we had in Oxford. So we identified about 6 of them. And she will give us the talk tomorrow afternoon. Yeah.
Thank you. Zahid.
So I had a question about risk factors. So it's clearly liver flukes is a big risk factor in certain parts of the world, northeast Thailand, but only a relatively small proportion of people who eat raw fish and get OV actually get cholangiocarcinoma. So there must be additional risk factors, some of which are likely to be genetic. But I wondered whether, I don't know what percentage of people with OV will get cholangio. I don't know, 5%, 10%, but the majority of people who have OV will never get cholangiocarcinoma. So I just wondered if people have looked at additional environmental risk factors that coincide in studies. Is it alcohol related? Is it how much whiskey they put down when they to try and kill the parasite? Is there a familial history? Is it smoking? Is it obesity? I just wondered if there's any work being done on that to look at the subpopulation who get it, what additional risk factors there may be.
That's a very good question.
I think you may have answered your own question there, Shahid.
Yeah.
Narong may want to expand a bit more on the risk factors that they're looking at in Thailand.
I think this is a very important question at the molecular levels. We emphasize the significant contribution of the tumor microenvironment to the tumor growth. And all these risk factors add up will increase the chance to get the.
But are the molecular mutations the cause or the effect of other risk factors? Are they the chicken or the egg?
Indeed. I think this need AI to do the calculation and to predict, simulate what's most high chance will hit.
It's a difficult question.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Thanks.
One question for Professor Naron. Hi. How is the situation of, in terms of incidence of sporadic cholangiocarcinoma in Thailand? Are the values and the numbers similar to the West?
You mean the incident of the cholangiocarcinoma in Thailand for now? It's very high, especially the OV-associated cholangiocarcinoma. It's around, in northeast of Thailand, it's around 80 to 100 per 100,000. It's not like the West in the incident.
Particularly in those cases non-related to OV infection, how is the incidence of those cases non-related?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's very good question for us to. We don't have any evidence about the sporadic like a sporadic cholangiocarcinoma. We just study about the OV positive or negative. In cholangiocarcinoma in Thailand, it's OV positive. It means the serum antibody or antigen, or also OV parasites X count in feces or urine. It's only 80%. But it's the rest of 20%, we don't know the cause, such as hepatitis, alcohol, or smoking, or other. We study about the relation of hepatitis B, but it's not related with the cholangiocarcinoma. So we have no hard evidence to say that the cause of cholangiocarcinoma other than OV in Thailand cause cholangiocarcinoma. We try very much like a pesticide or something like that, but nothing is proved about the other cause. It's just only OV.
Yeah, it's very surprising because I mean, we are living in a very global, and people are traveling all over the world. But apparently, these kind of parasites are very localized in that area, no? So we don't have data or cases here in Europe so far. Hopefully, we know. So that's very, very interesting, I think. We were very impressed about all the activities or the prevention activities that you are doing in Thailand in order to prevent the infection. Those educational and preventive activities have resulted in an impact, in a decrease in the cases of infection and cases. Do you have any result on this regard, or we need to wait a little bit more maybe?
It's the OV incident or prevalence in school children is decreasing dramatically in 20 years. And I think especially in school children is decreasing very, very, very much. But in the adult population, it's not decreasing. I think it's stable. It's around 20 to 40% of incidence of liver fluke in the adult. In the adult, but in the school children, is the evidence is decreasing. And I don't know that if the incidence of cholangiocarcinoma decreasing or not for now from the education. But I hope that it's, if we can implement the education program in the kindergarten, primary, secondary, or even the non-formal education, I think in 10 or 20 years, the raw attitude and also food safety in the school children, and they will grow up in 10 or 20 years. I hope that the behavior of eating raw fish and also the not safe food will decrease. And in the next 30 years, we hope that if no liver fluke in this school children, around 20 to 30 years after that, the cholangiocarcinoma will decrease. That's my hope.
Look.
Thanks, and thank you for all of the talks. So I wanted to pick up on the idea of molecular profiling from these different populations. So, is it working? Yeah, okay. So I want to pick up on the molecular profiling from the different populations, so both Thai, Chinese, and then kind of Western. So we have these actionable mutations, IDH, FGFR2, but actually, do we know yet, or do we have any ideas about clonality within the tumor? So are all the cancer cells within that mutant, or are we going to have parts of the tumor that are refractory to these targeted therapies? And is that coming out of any of this data? It may be that there's no answer. Sorry.
Do you want to specify your questions a bit? Extend your questions a bit more, please.
So, well, I suppose, do we know whether the origin of these cancers are clonal or not? And I suppose that's going to inform our treatment, right?
Yes. No, go ahead. I think clonal evolution of the cancer is well accepted. Originated from single cells, subject to the environmental stimulation. One day they change it, like Shahid mentioned. So many factors add up and make the outgrowth of the environment. So, which is one of the projects my student Gemma Owing is focusing on that. We try to figure out during the early onset of tumor growth, what do the role of the normal chondrocyte contribute and plays any role in the regulation of the tumor formation? So we are working on this project at the moment.
That'll be very interesting, I think.
So Gemma will present it to you tomorrow afternoon, a public site for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We look forward to see the data. Well, if there is no any other question, we can just give an applause to the two panelists. Thank you very much.